making that sound.
Should we start?
Are we not starting?
We've been recording for 17, 18, 19 seconds now. Hey, everyone, welcome to the Let's Try.
My name is Lyndon.
Lennon's here, too. It's just the two of us. And we were meant to have a guest today, so Lynn came over, and then we had to Another she. We keep on having female guests. I think we should get an award, Lyndon, for most female guests.
Yeah.
For the most, gender, non-male.
Justin Trudeau's got nothing on us.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, why is 70% of your guests females?
The mic, you got to speak into that mic.
I am speaking into the mic.
You're like to the left of the mic.
The mic is to
I like how your first instinct was to move the mic and not your head 1 inch. Justin Trudeau.
He's got nothing on us.
Okay, now you're too loud.
What is...
You're either like so quiet or so loud, and I love
I'm
it.
just over here.
Yeah, that's not enough.
But if I'm over here...
Yeah, those are miles apart. You know what? Let's keep that like it is. So anyway, we were gonna have a guest, but anyway, now we're here. We had some ideas though, some thoughts to share with everybody.
Yeah.
First of all, we have some emails we can get into, but I think this is gonna be something we haven't done in a while, which is a doctrinal deep dive discourse dalliance. Because that's what these things are. They're dalliance. They're not them. What are we doing when we do these things? Some people say that they like them, and I like doing them too. But I just fear for the faint of heart sometimes, Lyndon.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard several comments like, my favorite dose of blasphemy every week.
Yeah,
and I was like, if blasphemy is what the kids are calling truth, then great.
Then good. That's exactly what this is. So let's. I guess we'll just read those emails. We'll just get. They're not very long.
Just a couple.
Actually, no, there is one long one. Never mind. This is from Alex, our buddy Alex Williams. He spelled it with an N at the end of it. He says, "Okay. Subject is unhealthy skepticism." He says, "Okay, you should be skeptical of things." Who's out there? I hear voices. You should be skeptical of things. Does anyone else hear those voices? But you should be skeptical of things, but allowing yourself to think everyone is coming after you, it can't be healthy. He's talking about the gun episode. He's talking about when...
I thought he used... Isn't that a reference to you were trying to do a wisecrack, the philosophy of Lyndon?
Is that what that is?
And I was like, I guess I would just call it a healthy critical skepticism.
Oh, okay.
I think he might be referring to that.
Is that what that is? Because he's also talking about guns. He's like, I can also understand why guns can be a cool hobby for people. Not
for Putin.
For Putin. Not my thing, though. True and faithful Alex Williams. Okay, so those are just two separate
Is he
thoughts.
talking about like the conspiracy preppers, or is he talking about me?
I thought he was talking about conspiracy preppers, but now that you say that, I don't remember that specific part. But if that's
probably on an episode we haven't even released yet. I don't know.
We're banking eps today for sure. This will come out end of September, I think. So we're just look at the amount of effort we're putting into this. It's incredible.
So much.
If we put this amount of effort into any other area of our lives, we'd be very successful. But I think
we'd have
it's a choice.
Some sort of means of success, I suppose.
Some means of success. So
some measure.
I don't know what to make of this email. There's not much to it. I feel like
he's just stating his opinion.
Alex is just sort of phoning these in. He's phoning these emails.
He's in Idaho now, isn't he?
Yeah, he doesn't care about us or this. He's picking up those ladies. He's picking up those women. I just listened to the episode with our guest Aiden Christensen, and it's all about like dating and stuff. And I'm just like, I drop a lot of advice about dating. So do you.
Do we?
kind of. And I'm just like, I felt a little uncomfortable being sort of like a dating guru. Not
Really?
I mean, a guru entails that someone's listening to you and sort of actually following what you're saying or following your advice. Does it not?
Maybe you're not a guru, but you are a fount of information.
I have experiences. I don't know. Anyway, so people may have listened to that already and maybe have heard the full length and depth of my humiliation. If not, check it out. It's the dating episode. Anyway, Alex, I hope you're doing well down there. I hope they haven't corrupted you. I hope your operating system is intact and that you're having a good time and that you're safe. No one's offered you Kool-Aid or white sneakers to wear.
Not at
We can only hope.
Not at Rick's college.
This is a long email. This is from Andrew Cacao, a true and faithful. I'm going to read this entire thing as Jordan Peterson. Here we go. This podcast is mostly okay. I'm getting tired of Troy's Jordan Peterson impersonation. Oh, crap. Okay. Never mind.
It was a good start. We get the idea.
This podcast is mostly okay. I'm getting tired of Troy's Jordan Peterson impersonation, mainly because it sounds like Marvin the Martian. Move on. Stop taking every piece of feedback to heart. Except this piece of feedback. Case in point, Tim Howie tells you to define lingo. Every episode after, I have to listen to the Coop define whitewashing. I know you're starved for content, but try some other filler. Or maybe just make a gosh darn FAQ. FAQ, sorry. How do you pronounce that? Do you say the letters FAQ in your head? Because I say FAQ in my head every time, but I like saying it out loud.
Well, that sounds like
bad.
you're saying the F word with like a really strong Boston accent.
FAQ, yo.
I say frequently asked questions.
So when you see FAQ in your head, you say the whole thing.
Yes.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. This says a lot. When you're reading like a math textbook, do you spell out the numbers out? Do you like if the numbers were like 6925, do you say 6,952 in your head? Or do you say 6925?
I haven't looked at a math book in like 10 years.
Okay.
I actually have a little dot matrix that I read the numbers as.
Okay. So you're not reading per se. You're like reading it the way a computer would and mapping it to a graph in your head.
Exactly.
Okay. Do we have to put the explicit thing now? Should we bleep me saying FAQ in that?
Frequently asked questions.
Okay. We're just gonna leave it and see what happens. Or a gosh darned FAQ and define their terms there. Then people will have a reason to go to this website. Yeah, we've kind of forgot about this website. There's really no reason to go there, except if you're new. If you're new to the podcast, it's a nice landing page.
Or if you're looking for the sketch videos.
Yeah, those are there. Your guests are definitely the highlight. Hey, thank you. Don't do an episode without one. Hey, sorry. He calls you Landon, by the way. Landon needs to stop equivocating on everything and just pick a expletive deleted side. He writes expletive deleted in parentheses. What do you think the expletive was that was deleted there? What do you think that word was?
I'm just going to equivocate here. Say, could be anything, really.
He says, I love the videos mainly because of Dave Hyatt's screenwriting / directing. Ooh. Does he knows how to, he knows he's pushing buttons here.
Yeah, he knows what he's doing.
There's credits at the end of the videos. Pal. He says, is it possible to get him on the podcast more and you guys less? I liked his episode. His sultry baritone really made the episode. Your blue ink prank was characteristic of the crass, lowbrowed Larry the Cable Guy-esque humor I would expect from stateside serving missionaries. Anyways, wish you guys the best, all the best. Landon has come a long way from showing me how to play Assassin's Creed in his basement, which eventually led to my monopolization of his Xbox. Now that's a story worth telling. Wow. Thanks, Andrew. I must say he did send this via the website. He used our little form submission thing we have on there. So
Proof that the website works.
and is needed and useful. So thanks for proving that, jerk. No, as always, your feedback is appreciated. We love to be roasted. It keeps us humble, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Do you ever think you need to get humbled sometimes? The listener, Lyndon, is staring at his big toe as he ponders the depth and breadth of the need for his humility.
In the famous words of Kendrick Lamar, Biombo. So
I don't know what that means. What does that mean?
Oh, it's from his song Be Humble.
Oh, Biombo.
And it sounds like he's saying Biombo. Like
Biombo.
NBA center Bismack Biombo.
Or like Harambe, the beloved gorilla. Killed in a tragic accident.
Yes.
In a tragic whoopsie. Shot to death. Straight in the chest.
A tragic oopsie daisy.
A tragic oopsie moopsie. A moment of silence for Harambe, please. What a weird episode this is so far. We have some... did we have anything else to talk about?
Was that the only email?
Those were the two, yeah.
Those were the two.
Yeah. Did we have any feedback or have any, like, do we need to equivocate on anything before we move on to our next thing we're going to need to?
I don't think so.
Eventually,
Just in further defense of the website.
Yeah.
The reason Andrew was on the website is he was getting those little sketches to show his Sunday school class. So that's right. The Mission Stories is a part of church curriculum. It's being taught to the youth in Sunday school nationwide.
I would love to know those kids' reactions to those.
They loved it.
They loved it. Good.
I think they watched episode 1 in Sunday school.
Hopefully, yeah, episode 4 gets kind of dark, I feel. Episode 1's good. Episode 4 and 3. They get interesting as they go on. Speaking of getting interesting as they go on, should we move on to our main topic of discussion? At its heart, this episode is going to be a deep dive, a dalliance into doctrine, a theorization of a point of doctrine. What's the doctrine we're going to be discussing today, Lyndon? What's the big question?
I think we were going to get involved with personal revelation.
Personal R, as I like to call it.
Because R can only stand for one thing.
I've never...
Revelation.
Revelation, guys.
What is it? Why do we do it? What's it for? How do you know?
How do you know? Because that's the big question, right? Like, I feel like going on a mission and then coming home and then all the things that, you know, the little bits and pieces we get from general authorities. I feel like the question that is on everyone's mind at all times is, how do I know that what I'm receiving or think is personal revelation is actually personal revelation? And how can I know that? Linda, why is that a problem? Why do people think that way? Like, what is the issue that one would have to make them think that, I don't know, they can't be sure?
Well, I think foundationally, we are a church based on revelation. We sprang into existence, the church,
Sprang
into existence because of revelation.
Yes.
And everyone should get it. Here's the key.
Okay, fair. But the way that revelation was received versus how we are told revelation is received now, those are two very different things. It's, I mean, the first vision seems to me to be an unmistakable revelation from God, an appearance.
By revelation, we mean divine truth from God to man.
Right.
And by man, we mean just men. Just kidding.
No, we don't.
Hashtag 2018.
Hashtag me too.
To people.
Mankind.
People kind.
People kind, including women and including horses.
Not including horses.
Okay, never mind. Not horses.
Horses don't receive revelation.
Can you imagine in the year like 2025, people are just outraged by that statement? They're just like, how dare they not include horses in that? Their horse friend is listening, like, I am so sorry. I did not know this was going to be like this. So, revelation. It's got its
we all got to do it.
difficulties. We all got to do it. Yeah, in order to get anywhere in the church, testimony-wise, or even
in the gospel.
Your
path of discipleship.
You have to get the revelations, namely that the church is true, or that God lives, or that Jesus loves you and is your savior, and the Book of Mormon. Everything sort of depends. It's this linchpin, this what's the word? Cornerstone? No. Keystone. Really, of the faith.
Not to be confused with the keystone of the religion, but the keystone of your faith.
Yeah. Keystone of religion, Book of Mormon, faith, prayer. Or revelation, rather. Okay. There's a couple branches we could go down here. Number one, and this is maybe our first problem that we should address, is many churches, many faiths claim the same type of revelation, that feeling that what we're praying about is true for themselves, for their own faith, for any number of Protestant churches, for like the Muslim faith, I think, has a similar sort of method of knowing truth. And so we have the same method dictating the truth, quote unquote, of many different things. How do we address this? Did we get too...
We dove too deep all at once.
Did we get too deep too quick? Should we back up? Okay. Let's back up. Let's back up to the level of, what does revelation feel like today? What is it supposed to feel like? What does when we talk about receiving a revelation or the truth of something, what does it actually feel like?
I think they talk about the fruits of the Spirit,
which
it's
are
like happiness, joy, comfort.
Yeah.
Those things, which are all
it's
kind
a
of like positive emotions, basically.
Positive emotions. Doctrine and Covenants section 8 and 9 sort of spell out this dependence on both the emotions, as we've mentioned, but also it's got to make sense intellectually, theoretically.
To your heart and your mind.
So it's like the thing that you're receiving should make some sense. But then it's like, what? Like everyone's got every different sort of interpretation of what, maybe some people got some messed up minds, and so what makes sense to them is like, it's like, what if they got the math answer wrong? What if their calculator's all messed up? And in their head, they're like, oh, I should move to Singapore, be an interpreter. Actually, that's a perfectly reasonable thing. Unless, I don't know, you don't know any other language besides English.
They're like, I'm going to move to Malaysia and become a pig farmer. That's not logical.
No.
It's like a Muslim nation.
And it's like...
They don't want to eat pigs.
And it's like God telling you to do that, right? Like, it doesn't really make sense. So that's, I guess, the groundwork that we're dealing with here.
That becomes a question of the macro versus micro. Because you're just like, oh, what should I do with my life?
Yeah.
Is that like some sort of divine truth? Because it's like you should receive personal revelation about things of the gospel,
Right.
about your faith,
That's a great question.
the nature of God,
Yeah.
what he wants of you, and your covenants with him.
Uh-huh.
So that should all be revealed to you.
Yes.
But what school you're going to go to, where you should live, is that some sort of...
Do you think that none of that is God's concern?
That is my opinion.
Why do you come to that opinion?
Well, I think part of becoming joint heirs of Christ is learning to make your own decisions. Because it's like it's your life.
True.
That's your circle of influence.
Yes.
So you should probably take the reins of that. God's only concerned about the salvation of men.
Interesting. I've had a similar, not issue, but I guess, that usually, for me, that's where the problems come in, is the question, is the word should. What should I do? Mm-hmm. Where should I go? Why should I do it? I've always felt a lot of silence in response to a question like that. A question that is sort of relies on tactical judgment of a situation. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's in section 8 or 9, right? Where they're like, you're supposed to think it out. You're supposed to, you're the one who knows the situation best. Why do we not want to like make the decision though? Like, what is it about it that we're just so determined to get God to like give that approval, or that like this is what you do?
Well, because God is omniscient.
Yeah.
So he knows better than us. So
right.
He just naturally has more authority than our own like thought processes.
Do you think he's willing to give the answer? Do you think his preference is to let you do it yourself in those situations, those sort of tactical life situations? Where do I go to school? Who do I get, married to, etc.?
Yeah, I think Nephi is like that example where he's just proactive. Or even like the brother of Jared.
Yeah.
Where God's just like, well, what do you want?
Yeah.
He's like, here's an idea. And God's like, great.
Yeah.
He's like, why do I have to spoon feed you everything?
Yeah. But like, isn't there some precedent for him? And I guess there are other examples in the Doctrine and Covenants where they're talking about like when they're moving someplace, maybe they're asking like, which way do we go? Or some specific thing. And the reply is like, I don't really care about that. Just get it done or whatever. But isn't there, I mean, like, is this not like a little contradictory to the idea that like God is very much in the details of our lives though?
I'm pretty sure I heard the devil's in the details.
Oh, okay.
I think you got that backwards.
God's in the vagaries.
He's in the big picture.
He's a big picture kind of guy.
Devil's in the details.
Devil's in the deets. Okay.
Let me so I've heard, because people will be like, no, Lyndon, you're all wrong. Because they'll hear stories like, I remember at some conference, like a former mission president, they like get back from their mission.
Yeah. And
they're picking a place to live.
Yeah.
And they receive revelation. To go move in to the house they sold. They had a big old house in their old neighborhood where they raised all their kids.
Yes.
But now they don't have any more kids. They all moved away.
Right.
They're all grown up.
Yes.
They got no reason to live in that big old house. So what do?
What?
They go buy that house, move back in.
The same house that they had already sold?
Yeah, like years prior.
Okay.
It's like back on the market or something.
I see.
But what do they find out?
What?
They have a new neighbor.
Buried treasure underneath the floorboards.
No.
Okay.
New neighbor.
New neighbor.
Apparently is like a part member family or a long time inactive. I don't know. They become friends. Bring them back into church. They bring the gospel back to their family, and they're like, God knew that we needed to move back to that place. It was all part of his plan. People are like, there you go, Lyndon. Your idea is shot. God's got this small, tiny little plan. And I'm like, hey, guess what, guys? Here's the thing about people like that who are instruments of God. Guess what? They don't. Here's a theory. Here's another universe for you. They don't move back into that house. They're like, that doesn't make sense. Why don't we go live in a nice condo? Guess what?
What?
They're going to find someone in that condo that they're going to like bring closer to God.
Right.
It's like
the opportunity cost of all the people that didn't bring to the gospel because they weren't living somewhere else.
Yeah. So it's just like, if you're an instrument of the Lord, you're going to lift where you stand.
Interesting.
So they think,
Right.
So I think it's helpful for people to be like, God wanted and needed us to do this specific thing. I'm like, oh no, I think if you're just ready and willing, you will do God's work wherever you are. It doesn't matter.
What about, so you're saying, I had a thought and then I like lost it. So the thought was, if you, gosh darn it, it's gone. All right, never mind. It was something about how the people were those people. Oh, right. It was to do with how certain people are more willing to ascribe things to God and to the Spirit.
Right.
And some people are less willing to do that. How can you know the difference between the actual things that God is saying or bringing into your life or revealing to you in your life, or does that even matter? Is that even important? Do you know what I'm saying? Does it simply sort of become a choice of like of the Matthew principle of like to whoever ascribes more to God, God gives more to those people.
Mm-hmm.
And whoever ascribes less, it is taken away from them.
Well, as someone who just gave a talk in Sacrament about the Matthew principle, I'll agree to anything you have to say about it.
The Matthew principle, yes?
Yes, of course. Yeah, I think that's definitely a thing. I mean, my short answer is it doesn't matter. But no one likes that, and it's no one cares for that answer. Nah, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
But then you have to.
What doesn't matter?
Well, here's the thing that does matter: the fact that they moved to that place,
Yeah,
and helped those people find their way back onto the path.
yeah,
That matters.
Sure.
Does it matter that they're convinced it was God's plan? No.
So this sort of comes back to the Elder Bednar thing, where he's at the BY devotional and someone asks this exact question. They're like, how do I know? Because this is the big question. How do I tell the difference between my own thoughts and God telling me to do something? And he said, are you a good boy? And he's like, yes, then you don't need to worry about it. Like you said, it doesn't matter if it came from him, from God, or if just from your own mind, because ideally those two things are or should be the same.
Mm-hmm. See, that reminds me of when Elder Christofferson came to town and someone was prepared and they're just like, how do I know when I'm receiving revelation or just thinking my own thoughts? And being the wise apostle that he is, he's like, area authority, Elder Spackman. He's like, take the reins, buddy. He's like, I'm not going on record answering this question.
What I say has too much weight.
And so he was just like, well, yep, if you're keeping the commandments, then it counts. Which is, and I just was sitting there, just smile on my face, how happily unsatisfied I was with that answer.
What about the scenario where you're doing all the things you should be doing, and then you get a revelation to do whatever, small thing, sort of seemingly insignificant thing that leads you to a negative result. It's objectively a negative result.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, you have your agency throughout all of it, but it's because that happened to me. That happened to me where I was doing all the things you're supposed to be doing. We should be doing, right? So God,
you were a good boy.
I was a good boy. God should be, in my mind, I'm like, the channels should be very clear. There's no reason why it shouldn't be. And I received what I thought was a revelation, as clear of a revelation as I'd had any other time, and actually had something come from it. And so the revelation that I had on this particular night was to go see a movie. And anyway, the end result, the sort of like the series of events cascaded into a negative outcome for me. And so in that moment I was like, so what? Either one of two things. I either have no idea how revelation works, or I was intentionally led down this strange path to a negative outcome by God. So it left me a little confused.
Mm-hmm.
And to this day, I don't really know what to do with that.
See, perhaps I'm just so past feeling, but I was like, that just seems absurd to me that like a divine truth, knowledge from God could be, you got to go see a movie.
Right.
So that's absurd to me.
That God would even tell me to go see a movie.
Why?
Because it felt like a revelation. This is the thing, is that it felt like how other revelations have felt before.
So like divine truth, faith, and testimony affirming experiences have been on par with, should I go see a movie, God? And like this resounding yes, like just light filled your bosom.
Maybe not like that. I don't know, and maybe this is where
I think we might have some trigger happy saints when it comes to revelation.
I think you may be right. And I think I have a takeaway from all of this that I sort of employ in my life now, but leading up to that, you're right. I think there are two kinds of revelation. On the one hand, there's the warm, fuzzy, enlightening, edifying feeling of like true principles, high ideals exemplified in the form, because I feel like I don't think it's contrary to think that you can feel the Spirit in an R-rated film. I think the Spirit bears witness of, or that truth resonates within each of us for me, when I see high-minded ideals exemplified. For instance, Saving Private Ryan, rated R. Mm-hmm. Full of courage and bravery and self-sacrifice and everything that the Savior's Jesus Christ's sacrifice was all about. Yeah, I'm going to feel the Spirit. I'm going to shed a tear or two. I'm going to choke up because I'm feeling those things.
Well, we've already talked about the Motion Picture Association of America.
Yeah, and its power over the members of the church.
Yeah.
Bishops.
How it's a gospel authority.
It is a gospel.
Or maybe it's not, I've suggested.
Who knows?
But yeah,
who can say?
So an R-rated film due to its violence. I mean, the Book of Mormon would be rated R.
It should be if it ever is made into a good film. My version of it would be rated hard R.
18A.
18A. No one under 17 allowed, folks. So, yeah, I think there's a difference between that sort of, I feel the love of God versus maybe I should go over here and do this thing.
Well, yeah, feeling the Spirit or recognizing the light of Christ is not personal revelation.
Right.
Because like we said, personal revelation is like divine truth revealed from God to man.
Right.
And so this kind of brings me to my little point about trigger happy on the revelations.
Okay.
To a principle in philosophy called BS.
Okay.
And I'm sure you can imagine what that stands for.
What does that stand for?
Bull patooey.
Bull poop.
And I wish they don't have another term for it.
I already said the F word on the podcast.
Well, you said frequently asked questions, but you just mispronounced it.
True.
So the reason someone wrote a philosophical essay about this, because there's truth,
yeah,
honesty, then there's like lies and dishonesty, and then there's BS.
Yeah.
And you're like, what's the difference, you might ask?
Uh-huh.
So the difference is when you tell a lie, you're still ultimately acknowledging truth. because you're saying, I'm going to go against truth.
Right.
Whereas if you're telling the truth, you're also acknowledging truth. So in a sense, if you're talking about it like on a scale of what's the most unethical, it's like truth, lies, and then BS. Because BS is saying truthy things. You're just saying things with no regard for the truth or reality.
Oh, okay.
So, for instance, take LeVar Ball. Many people know who he is. Many people don't. He just he said he could beat Michael Jordan one-on-one.
Okay.
And so that's an example of BS.
He's a basketball player.
He played like a little bit of college basketball.
Okay.
Like he played like a year and then he played college football.
Okay.
And so he says, he's like, yeah, I could beat Michael Jordan one-on-one in basketball.
Huh.
And so the reason that's so infuriating is because it has just no regard. Is he lying?
Well,
how would you know?
There's no way to know.
There's no way to know. And there's no way to know if he's lying or if he's telling the truth. He's just making a claim without any acknowledgement to truth.
The likely truth being that there's really no way he could win.
Yeah. And so there's no way we're going to set this up to where he plays basketball with Michael Jordan. That's not going to happen.
Right.
So there's no way for us to like empirically test this.
Yeah.
We just kind of have to like either be like, okay, I guess so. Or you just get angry and you're like, that's BS.
Yeah.
And so why do I bring that up? Because there's a lot of people who are very trigger happy with their revelations. And it's like, is there any way to verify that?
Right.
So it's like they say like, oh, you like, for instance, you're like, I got divine truth to go see a movie.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I'm not allowed to question that authority. Like, I'm not supposed to be like, Troy, I think you're wrong. I don't think that's what God wanted for you, because I have no authority to do that.
Right.
So now there's like, it's like truth has been thrown out the window because someone just makes a claim of revelation.
Uh-huh.
So now it doesn't matter what's true or what's wrong. You're not even, because you're not even lying. It's not a lie that you felt something.
No.
But it's also not necessarily true that that's what was God's will. So these trigger-happy revelations all fall into the philosophical category of BS.
Do you think, though, that God at least knew that I thought that was a revelation?
And so like maybe he got a notification that's just like, Troy's being duped by his own cognitive bias.
Bing! Yeah, he like looks at his phone. He's like, uh-oh.
He looks at his personal Leahona,
His
which we'll all get in
which we'll
heaven.
all get. iPhones are the training wheels for that now.
And it's just like Troy's being duped by his own mental heuristics into thinking it's revelation.
But what am I supposed to do with that? You know what I mean? Like if I think that that's what revelation is it just upon me to say, I guess that's not what revelation is?
You got to learn.
For years, I've been sort of thinking that that's a part of what revelation is, that feeling of like that sort of urge to do a certain thing that seems arbitrary, right? It seems arbitrary, but it's like I have this feeling to do it.
Because it gets into that. Because it's like if you have an urge to do something bad,
right?
You're like, can't be from God.
No.
Because of what, Bednar and Spackman have said.
Right.
Where it's like, well, it's got to be in line with like the commandments. You got to be doing good.
It's got at least align with that, which is a good measuring stick.
But then you get into this gray area where it's like, well, going to the movies is neither here nor there.
Yeah,
but if it's neither here nor there, it could be here or there.
That's right.
And so that's when you start getting a little trigger happy.
Well, the when it's as harmless as that, it's like I guess I'll give it a shot.
And then you just say, God's ways are not our ways. This might lead to some divine truth.
The thing that happened with that particular situation, though, is that events unfolded from it that initially would seem to be like, oh my goodness, this is what I should have done. Do you know what I mean? Like some like uncanny, unlikely meetings with old, friends and so on, and like which would eventually lead to sort of a negative feelings outcome in the end. I don't know. Is the answer that it's on me to identify that just simply wasn't what I thought it was, and that because the problem is that it felt like the real McCoy. Mm-hmm. That's the problem for me. Like, I'm all about admitting that it just wasn't what I thought it was going to be. But the issue I have is now that, okay, whatever I had in terms of being able to mark or measure or identify when I'm receiving quote unquote revelation in that regard, I really can't trust it at all. I really can't. I have to use my judgment. I have to use my intellect.
Because like your knowledge of what revelation is has become faulty.
Yeah, in that particular regard, yeah.
It becomes a difficult thing because it's like your knowledge of what knowledge is.
Yeah.
Which gets us into the grand branch of epistemology. Mm-hmm. So I just want to bring this up.
Okay.
I have my little notebook. Speaking of epistemology,
yeah,
they have their own little definition of what truth is.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that.
All right.
It goes like this. 3 keys. Justified, true belief.
Okay. Justified, true belief. Is that like a sentence? Is that like a...
It's what philosophers over the millennium have boiled down.
Okay.
They're like, this is all we can say knowledge is. Justified, true belief.
Okay.
So that becomes tricky because you're like, well, what's true? What's justified? What's belief?
Right.
Right. So I think I was telling you about this, the Don Draper example, where it's like one? Betty Draper, to her knowledge, her husband's name is Don.
Yeah.
She has a justified,
spoilers, by the way,
a justified false belief.
You're right. She's justified because she has no reason not to think
She's justified to think his name's Don.
Right.
And she honestly believes that.
Yeah.
But it's not true. So her knowledge is faulty.
So it's not true.
I guess not.
So it's not real knowledge. So what is it?
Faulty knowledge.
Okay. All right. I like that. I'm down with that.
So, because it's like, that's one, everything is a belief.
Uh-huh.
Because a lot of people are like, oh, this is hard fact.
Yeah.
It might be a justified true belief, but very few things are like hard facts.
Yeah. I have to walk away from that experience and I guess that whole thing with the following conclusion for myself, that there's no way, or maybe this, God is not concerned, not that he's not concerned, but there's no real, and maybe this isn't even true for other people. And like, I feel like there's been other circumstances in my life, of course, which brought me to the conclusion that like such a feeling could come out in a positive way, which is why I followed it in the first place. But now I sort of have to walk away with like, it is up to me. God has delivered me out of, I come out of the box with the software necessary to judge my own circumstances. Mm-hmm. And I have to, it's not up to God really, like there's no patch software coming in, via Wi-Fi or whatever. Like it's all in here. Like I'm the one who has to say, if I get a little sprinkle thought through the air, oh, I should go see a movie and God's telling me to do it, I have to be the one saying, well, why? And if it makes no sense, I have to say it makes no sense. Mm-hmm. And nothing based on my knowledge would indicate that I have to do this or whatever.
I like to think of it more as a firmware update.
A firmware update.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not necessarily software.
Okay. I don't get it. That's right. It's probably what I meant to say.
We'll let the computer engineers out there judge that analogy.
Yes. So that's one of my takeaways. The other, I would say, to sort of close my own thoughts on this out, is that I do think I do think that revelation and prayer specifically are the most applicable and helpful for all of your inside thoughts, all of your internal dealings, all of your emotions, all of your feelings. I believe prayer is very effective if you're in a bad mood, or if there's something about your behavior that you dislike and you want to change. I think the revelations that can come from, the peace that can come, the feelings of joy and happiness, or relief from some sort of mental or emotional burden, I think that's a very real thing that can come from prayer, and that God can sort of deliver to you. I then think it is on you, when dealing with the outside world, that's all on you now. God has given you the tools, and now you, like Nephi, have to go to wherever the ore is buried and dig it out and molten it and make whatever the tools you are to actually do and affect the real world. Those experiences have sort of shown me a little bit that you just have to be more wary, and you have to be more, I don't know.
Okay. How about this?
Okay.
Here's a little cutesy revelation story we can break down.
Okay.
This is a little follow-up to our dating episode.
Yes.
We'll do the story of my first kiss.
Okay.
So, as we remember, Lyndon's medical miracles. Not too keen on the women folk till after my mission.
Yes.
So after my mission, I start seeing a lady.
Ooh.
And hanging out.
What's her name?
Doesn't matter.
Georgina.
Yeah, Georgina. And I go to the temple with her.
Oh, snap. One of those dates.
Yeah. Okay. Well, no, she's like going through the temple for her first time.
Oh, snap.
And I'm there with her.
Oh, snap. This is serious.
Yeah. And what revelation do I receive?
What's that?
You got to kiss this girl.
Oh.
Clear as day. Divine truth from God. I have to kiss this girl. And I was like...
What were the details of this? Like, you got to kiss her right then?
Well, no, it's just... It was like a task, like an objective in a video game pops up in the top left corner. You got to kiss this girl.
Kiss this girl.
And then maybe I started humming the little tune from Little Mermaid. I don't know.
La, 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 don't you cry.
Right. That might be a fabricated memory. Hard to say.
I don't think so.
And so then I'm just like, well, now it's up to me to accomplish this task from heaven.
Yes.
And I did.
Uh-huh.
I went to, I was like reading WikiHow on how to kiss girls.
That was your first kiss?
Yeah.
Incredible. So, okay. So God's
hand in my life
to do that.
Now, obviously that girl's like happily married to another dude, not me. So it's not like that. It's not like, it was God's plan for me to receive that revelation so we could become eternal companions.
Right. It's sort of just...
Or was it God's plan just for me to get that experience under my belt? Or was it all just me wanting to get my lips on another lady?
Here's the other part of all of this that you could apply to my story too. We do not know the full extent of... I'm currently more than halfway through a TV show about it's science fiction, and it's like set in a Western setting, and it's like a Jurassic Park but for Westerns, and the name of the show shall not be displayed. But I'm a little disappointed with season 2 so far, because I don't know, it's just not quite what I wanted it to be. But it's not over yet. So how dare I cast my judgments upon the thing when I haven't even seen the whole thing yet? So maybe that's what this is, right? Maybe it's like for you and for me in these situations where it's like, God, I thought God wanted me to do this. Well, maybe it's just that we just haven't seen the full thing yet. Maybe that's entirely possible, because things don't all, things lead to other things, which trigger other things, which, it's this domino effect that we just can't ever know the full extent of. I don't know, maybe me going into that movie theater, maybe I was going to get into a traffic accident if I would have just driven home. Maybe. I don't know. But I mean, you could play that game all day long. But it's, I don't know. I'm open to that possibility as well.
Right.
Because for you, what was the outcome? You kissed a girl. She's happily married. Maybe it was for her.
Maybe I was the agent of God to drive her to a better man.
Maybe. Well, that's impossible.
It's all God's plan.
No better man than you, Lyndon.
That's also true.
No better man than you. So I don't know.
So, I mean, yeah.
I don't know.
It kind of just comes down to it doesn't really matter. God just wants good boys and good girls.
But should we
and he's like, here's the restored gospel.
Should we continue?
Live it.
Should I and should you give another chance to those little flash in the pan, crazy ideas? Not necessarily crazy, but just these little things that come to us where it's like, maybe I'll go see a movie because I just feel like I should. Well, maybe I'll take a different route home.
I think you got to stop claiming the author of those as God.
Okay.
You can say, it's all me, baby, because I'm an agent of the Lord.
Okay.
Because I'm a covenant man of God.
And then what if something good comes from it?
Take the credit.
Take the credit for myself?
Yeah. Be like, I'm a tool of God.
There's this other story, I think it's Buddha, like this story that's ascribed to Buddha, where he wakes up one day and there's a baby on his doorstep and he decides to, or maybe this isn't it. Anyway, he decides to like raise it. Good news. Wow. Cool thing. Great. I got a baby now. The next day, the townspeople were like, hey, that's not your baby. We know whose baby that is. So they take it away. And he's like, bad news. Okay. And then the next day, they're like, you know what? We actually couldn't find the parents. Here's the baby back. Oh, good news again. You know, years go by. He raises the kid, puts his whole life into it. And then like, I feel like I'm conflating two different things right now. But the point of the thing I'm trying to say right now is that like, depending on the day, the story has a happy ending or a bad ending.
Right.
You know, and maybe ascribing any one of those up, down days to God is like, maybe God's outside of all of it. Maybe it's all a part of some big, big, big picture we can't even fathom right now.
Well, yeah. I mean, Plato or Aristotle, one of those Greek fellas, said something the same where it's like, how do you know if a man has lived a virtuous life? And he's like, you don't know till they're dead. Because it's like, they could be living a virtuous life, and they could ruin it all on their deathbed.
Yeah.
Or they could have an unvirtuous life, and they could redeem it all on their deathbed.
How can you redeem a whole life in virtue on your deathbed, do you think? What's something?
Well, I don't know what Plato was thinking, but we have the atonement.
Atonement of Christ.
That could like undo all that.
Okay.
And then, of course, you know, if you look at the great story of Job, if you stopped reading halfway through that, it'd be a real sad story.
Here's what I'm getting from this. The time frame of the result. For one thing, the results themselves are, if I'm putting it in my own hands to be the judge of like the results of following a quote unquote impression from God, I might be disappointed because I don't know, I can't see the full picture. I don't know. There's something about the scope of the time frame that we're looking at. If your life's
a mosaic and you're like, I received inspiration to do this, overall it was a bad experience. Because it's like, maybe God takes 2 tiles out of the picture, but added 1.
Yeah.
And you're like, what a net loss. But it was like a like really required piece of your life.
And again, who knows? Who knows? Who can know?
Apparently we're supposed to know. Precept upon precept, revelation upon revelation.
Yeah. We're supposed to know more than we do.
The mysteries of heaven are supposed to be unfolded to us.
Right.
But maybe not the mysteries of this silly little earth.
Maybe not.
Maybe just the mysteries of heaven.
Maybe just enough. Just enough for us to make our way through this hazy, clinging to that iron rod, hand over fist.
Shuffle off this mortal coil.
And die. That has been Mission Stories, folks, for this week. Yeah, we're up on an hour. I'd say we're good. Do you have any other things we want to talk about?
Well, I mean, I guess,
Final thoughts?
Tell us what you think, people. Tell us where we're way off base.
Yeah.
Other than that, when it comes to Revelation, you just got to stay true and faithful.
Bye.